Hello and welcome to the Home Screen Podcast. This is episode 32, and today is the third episode in a short series of solo episodes that I've been doing where I've been able to talk to filmmakers about their upcoming work. This episode is about an upcoming short film called Butterfly on a Wheel. I had the opportunity to hop on a Zoom call with the director Trevor Morris a few weeks ago, and we had a great chat about the film and the journey he went on to make it. This is Trevor Morris's first time directing. He is mostly well known for his composition work, for renowned series like Vikings, and he's even won a couple of Emmys for his work too. So before we jump into that interview, just a quick little bit about the film and some thoughts about it. So this is a short film set in Toronto, which focuses on a young man called Jacen. He's a gifted musician struggling to keep up with his daily life due to OCD and anxiety, while also studying jazz at the Royal Conservatory of Music. One day when practicing, he encounters a fellow student, which sets in motion a transformative journey that challenges and shapes his perception of the world around him. I really enjoyed this. I thought the cinematography looked beautiful, and I even thought it was lit really well, especially some of the scenes inside the conservatory itself. I thought it was really tastefully done. And this is something that I touch on in the interview too, but being a jazz musician myself, I really liked the score. Particularly there's a track called The Healing Montage, and on the soundtrack they did a four-handed piano version of that. You don't normally hear like an alternate version like that, so I thought it was just fascinating to listen to. I think the film really succeeds at showing the journey of him overcoming the OCD and anxiety in quite a tasteful way. Because it's on the longer side when it comes to short films being just over 30 minutes long, I think it really allows time for there to be multiple threads that all lead to him overcoming his struggles. You can really see the arc and you can see the journey take place throughout the runtime. And I also think that jazz music itself is such a good vehicle to show someone letting go structure and order and embracing life in a more free-form way. It makes his story arc of overcoming the struggle feel fresh and rooted in a real reason for change. You know, you can see the motivation, you can see the process, and you can see the outcome. But yeah, overall, I was very impressed by this. I think it accomplishes a lot for a short film, and I was very glad I had the opportunity to watch this. So now we're going to jump into the interview that I've mentioned. So please enjoy this chat with myself and the director of Butterfly on a Wheel, Trevor Morris. Thank you so much, Trevor, for taking the time for the interview today. First of all, really enjoyed the film.
Thank you very much.
What led you to wanting to tell this story specifically? How did the idea come about of wanting to tell this story about someone suffering from OCD as a musician and trying to overcome those barriers?
Yeah, the genesis of the movie really was a personal moment in my life where I was kind of at a rock bottom type of place. I was really not in a great place, flat on my back, to be honest.
Okay.
And I started my journey out of that started with a question, which is, okay, let's start at the beginning and what's a good memory that I could hold on to. And my first real warm, positive memory is sitting in my grandmother's lap and her playing Puff the Magic Dragon on the piano for me. So that began this sort of, it was actually a journal entry before it was a screenplay. And that began me exploring this character and what this character is looking for, which is really just human connection and to share in his case, his musical gift with the world. And so, I get asked a lot, is the movie autobiographical? It's not, but it sort of is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of me in it, but it's not exactly like my story. But that moment with grandmother and young Jacen is truly a core memory of my life.
Well, that's amazing. So then you mentioned about coming from the journal entry. Is that the sort of like quote that's on screen at the end where it mentions Butterfly on a Wheel? Is that where that came from?
Butterfly on a Wheel is a poem from 1736 by an author named Alexander Pope. It's been quoted in movies and song lyrics. It's usually they usually quote the line, "The wheel breaks the butterfly." What it means is literally, it's actually a torture device, kind of nasty. But my metaphor for it is this putting forth this enormous amount of effort to accomplish something relatively small. In that case, a torture device. But the metaphor of putting a lot of things in our own way to accomplish simple things is one of those sort of human condition things we all do. I don't know why we do it, but we do it, where, take like asking out a girl or a guy or whatever, like we make this monumental mountain out of something that's really simple. And it became this sort of metaphor for us getting out of our own way, which is what this movie at its core is really about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely felt that as sort of like a through thread going throughout of it. I guess you mentioned briefly then, so Jacen suffers with OCD and how this affects his daily life. One of them ways we kind of see it is through like his creative block when he's trying to write his jazz two bars. Is that something you can kind of relate to?
For sure, being a composer for as long as I had been, that those moments are real. Those come, those happen in real life all the time. But we start with him in his controlled environment in his apartment, and then his day gets progressively harder. Just to get out the door is a struggle, and that's what we're really trying to show that in his case it's OCD, but all of us have our own struggles in life. I'm hoping that people resonate with the character beyond whether they have OCD or not.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that as well. I myself as a jazz musician, I'm a jazz trumpet player. So I quite enjoyed the scoring, and there was a bit of like jazz in it leading up to his kind of like final performance. I also quite like the contrast about how jazz can be quite like freeform, again, which kind of opposes his kind of like OCD, quite rigorous lifestyle and routine. Have you found that
Mhm.
jazz has influenced yourself personally over the years throughout you, either through your directing and approach to this or through your composing?
But it's a very astute observation you just made, which is, yeah, jazz is by nature, improvisational based somewhat. And for someone with OCD to end up being able to finally cross the Rubicon of playing his music live for other people, which is his childhood fear, and have it be this free floating, the solo that he does, is definitely kind of a metaphor for a change for him. And that's what I love about jazz.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Absolutely. I also watched the behind the music short video afterwards, about
Mhm.
recording at Abbey Road. What was it like for you, getting to record in that studio too at Abbey Road?
We call it church. Take me to church, right? I score whenever possible. I score in the UK. I love it there. The studios are amazing. The musicians are amazing. Their instruments are older. It's hard to beat the sound of the UK players. I've been recording there for my whole career. But recording there as a composer for your own movie is a different animal altogether. It was quite exhilarating, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially all the history in the walls and in that studio in particular.
hmm
I know you mentioned in that video that the music and the script kind of had an impact on each other. With yourself being a composer, at what point did you develop the score? Which kind of came first with the script and the score? Were you kind of did you have the story in mind and then you wrote to that, or did they kind of influence each other in the process?
Oh, they definitely influence each other. The writing of him bashing away his two-bar jazz riff. So I'm writing that musically in my head while I'm writing the words, which is an interesting process that I don't know of any of the screenwriters who are also composers. So it's kind of unique to me. But certainly they informed each other. The healing montage, that little tiny, starts off as a very tiny piano motif. That I've been writing kind of constantly while I was envisioning the movie. It starts off with just this little four-note piano river, I call it, and it ends up in quite a grand orchestral gesture. That piece I was chewing on the whole time for sure. That and the two-bar jazz thing, I knew, and because you're a jazz musician, the way it works is you take the seed of an idea, you give it to great players, and then that's when the magic happens. So that was the end piece was never too thought out on purpose until we got on the day. By the way, there's a BTS behind the scenes of the jazz recording session coming out soon, so I'll make sure to give that to you as well.
Oh, yeah, I'd really like to see that. Thank you very much.
I imagine you would, yeah.
Yeah, and well, then you also mentioned about the healing montage. I noticed on the score there's a four-hand piano version of that as well. That was one of my favorite pieces as well. Do you just want to say a little bit about that, how that came to be?
Yeah, there's something about Jason's exercise in duality. We're all exercises in duality. And when I started writing the healing montage, I had this idea of writing it for four hands or two bodies, two actual piano players, which is what's actually is in there. But in the big piece under the healing montage, because the orchestra is so thick, you don't really get a sense of it. So I wanted to do just a pared back version of the soundtrack where you could really hear the piano divided in half for middle C and above and below with different ideas going in harmony, of course, together. It was a really fun. I've never done that before. It's inspired by one of my favorite film composers who unfortunately passed away a while back, named James Horner,
Hmm.
who would love to write for four-handed piano. So it was just kind of me channeling, sitting there alone composing, going, no one's going to give me notes. No one's going to, I don't have to get any approval from anybody. It's just me. So what do I want to do? And I wanted to channel my two favorite film composers, and James Horner was one of them. So that's where that idea came from.
That's really cool. Yeah, that stood out to me as one of my favorite aspects, especially looking through the soundtrack. That really stood out as something that you don't see very often. So I appreciated that absolutely.
Thank you for that.
How's the festival circuit been so far? I saw that it was played at TIFF a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been very well received. Our short film is longer than most short films. We're 33, 34 minutes. Most short films are 18 or 22.
Hmm.
So that did limit some festivals who just have a hard nothing over 29 minutes. That's fine. But every time we've screened it, it gets it gets great reception. I'm strangers coming out and crying on my shoulder and stuff like that, saying how much it moved them, and that ending where he finally is quote unquote seen for who he really is, which is what we all want as human beings. So the reception for it's been great. I don't really believe in reviews, better or worse, but the ones that have come out have been really positive. So it's been well received everywhere that it's been accepted, and we're going to go to Catalina Island here in California. We've been nominated for the 5 best international short films, which is pretty cool. And then Newport Beach and a few other ones coming up as well. But it's all going great. That's sort of a new thing for me as a director to go through talking to people like yourself and getting to celebrate it. So it's fun.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially after going through the process of making it, getting to kind of like reap the rewards and getting to talk about it and share it. It must be a satisfying experience, I guess.
It is. It was 2 years of my life to make that movie. From concept to completion. So it's nice to sit back and just talk about it and express it and celebrate it and screen it with strangers. It's quite gratifying.
Yeah, I can imagine. The last thing really I just wanted to ask is, what's next for you? Do you see yourself directing more in the future, or is this kind of so you want
Yeah,
to dip your toes in?
good question. Good question. My producer said to me when I started on this journey, they said, "You're going to go through this thing, you're going to do this thing, and afterward, one of two things is going to happen. A, I never want to do that again because it was so hard, or B, you're going to get the bug, and I definitely got the bug. So I'm deep in script on my first feature length directorial debut, I guess,
Great.
and that's going to be going to cast shortly and going to shoot in the new year. And that's a mystery thriller set in South Florida. So it's kind of a swampy thriller that's really exciting. So that's what's next. And that's going to take up the rest of 2026 for me.
Well, amazing. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again for taking the time to do this and for sharing the film with me. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your feature coming up in the next year or so.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and that was my chat with Trevor Morris via Zoom. Thanks a lot to Trevor for taking the time to chat to me about the film. Butterfly on a Wheel is now played at several festivals, such as TIFF, which is very well suited considering the film's based in Toronto. So keep an eye out for it at other film festivals over the next few months, and keep an eye out for it to release sometime over the next year. And that will wrap up this episode. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Home Screen Podcast. If you've enjoyed it, check the episode descriptions for all of our social media links. Give us a follow or a rating if you feel like it, and we hope to see you in the next one.